All right, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get this meeting started and we will start with roll call.
Thank you. Mayor LaBarre,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Case,
Here.
Councilmember Connors,
Here.
Councilmember Harvey,
President accounted for.
Councilmember Nakai,
Here.
Councilmember Neal,
Here.
Councilmember Zulawaga.
I breathed into a mirror and I got frost, so yes, I'm here.
So I take that as present. Thanks.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this evening, we're going to start with ceremonies, presentations, and appointments, and we are on 3A. And we have the reappointment of the Board of Adjustment member, and Suzanne is going to present for us.
Thank you, Mayor LaBarre. As council is aware, we have a reappointment to Kevin O'Neill for the Board of Adjustment. He is here with us in the audience this evening for your consideration and any questions that council may have of him. So I would like to invite Mr. O'Neill up to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you'll just give council and the audience an idea of why you want to be reappointed and what you've been up to on the BOA, we'd appreciate that.
Yes, the BOA needs people. And
Good answer.
there's been very few of us the first time or the last couple of years. So I'm re-upping to help out wherever I can.
Excellent. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. O'Neill, how often does the BOA convene?
It convenes when there is something presented to be considered, which is a bit random. It doesn't have a specific time, but we look each month to see if there's something. And yes.
So when was the last time you actually had a meeting?
I was going to say, Councilmember Zulawaga, I can answer for you that in 2 years, they've had 10 meetings.
Okay. Okay,
If that's helpful.
that's helpful. That answers it.
Yeah, it's certainly helpful to anyone who would like to join that, because it's not a major commitment, but it allows people like me who work full time to be able to give time to the city.
Council, anything further?
One final question is, so what have you learned serving for the last term?
Oh. For me personally, I can say that it's been a great step into the city itself. I've been in Woodland Park for going on 5 years, and my work is mostly completely elsewhere. So this has been a really good opportunity to work with people I really appreciate and to do a little something for the city. I do wish, like some of you, have more time that could do more, but
Thank you. Thank you for re-upping.
yeah, sure.
We're very glad you're here this evening, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right, council, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Mr. O'Neill to the Board of Adjustment
I'll
for a
second.
3-year term.
I'm sorry, Catherine. I'll second.
And before we vote, Suzanne, term is how long?
3 years.
3 years. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are we ready for the vote, Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. LaBarre,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Zulawaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Connors,
Yes.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Did I hear someone?
It was an echo.
Oh, okay. With your permission, the motion's carried unanimously. With your permission, may I administer the oath
Please.
of office? Okay. Harvey, stay right here so we have a microphone.
Sure.
Okay, and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kevin O'Neill,
I, Kevin O'Neill,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Colorado,
and of the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Woodland Park,
of the city of Woodland Park,
that I will faithfully perform the duties
that I will faithfully perform the duties
of member of the Board of Adjustment
as a member of the Board of Adjustment
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. And we'll have you sign this. I think that you've made Karen and her team very happy. Sir,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, we are off to item B, which is the Great Outdoor Colorado announcement of a grant to the city of Woodland Park to purchase a 120-acre parcel known as the Avenger Open Space. And Cindy Keating, our Parks and Rec Director, is going to present that for us.
Good evening, Mayor LeBar and council members. Before I present the GoCo information to you, I would like to introduce to you once again, I know you've met these guys before, but Jeff Webb and Chris Gonzalez, two Park and Rec Advisory Board members who have been instrumental in the acquisition of this property and this entire project. And so Jeff and Chris.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Gonzalez, like Cindy said, and I have the privilege of serving on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'm also the founder of a local volunteer organization called Teller Trail Team, which, as you might guess, is all about trails. So I would love to take the next couple hours to tell you all about my favorite rocks and trees on this property. But instead, I'll go ahead and give you a quick overview of the history of the project for any of those not familiar. Then I'll pass it on to Jeff, who's going to give you where it is currently. And so Avenger Open Space, proposed Avenger Open Space, is 120 acres. It's a historic mining claim situated up off of Kings Crown Road. So up behind Judges, all the way down behind the carpet store off of 4th Street. And so this is surrounded by National Forest, and it actually runs between Teller County and El Paso County. However, we do have a small city-owned open space almost directly adjacent to it with an existing parking lot, which is going to make access to that a wonderful opportunity. And so with this area going up for sale recently, these historic trails that have been used by the community for decades are a pin stroke away from being closed and developed, which would not only affect the trails on site, which you can see run down the middle there, but it would also affect access to the rest of the National Forest for everyone on the west side of the parcel. So on the screen, that's the bottom half. So by purchasing this land, the city has the opportunity to not only protect these trails, but also have the option to expand upon them and meet the growing need and desire for places that are both easily accessible, but still maintain a wilderness feel. All of this, of course, sounds great on paper to a trail lover like me, but we wanted to hear from the community themselves. And so we put out a survey and we were blown away by the responses. In short, the Trailhead survey showed us that this gets used over 650 times per week. And it's not just by locals, it also includes about 20% of non-locals. So people are actually coming here to visit this area, which is incredible. And so one of the users even said, you know, this is a huge tragedy if we were to lose this trail. It's such a wonderful experience to meet friends and neighbors and chat for a bit, because it does maintain that small town feel versus when you're on trails in some other places, you know, down in the Springs and whatnot. The last thing you want to do is talk to the people on the trails. You want to blow right past them, but up here, it still maintains that nice local feel that we have here in Woodland Park. And you can see some other wonderful comments up on the screen there as well. So as you can see, as is, this trail is already serving our community in a big way. So if the city were to purchase this and not do a single thing to it, it's already being loved and enjoyed. However, with the purchase of this, it opens up a lot of potential benefits. So things like expanding and improving outdoor recreation options, as well as educational opportunities for topics like forest ecosystem and local mining history. And by owning this, the city can take the lead on promoting forest health and actively working on fire mitigation, which is essential to not only protect this property, but everything uphill from it as well, which is where we're standing right now. And so with all these benefits, Avenger Open Space will clearly have an incredible return on investment for the city. And I'm going to let Jeff walk you through some of those numbers so you can see exactly what that benefit looks like. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeff Webb. I'm the chair of the Parks Board and I'm excited to be here. I'm trying to do two things at once, so it's kind of like, you have to forgive me here, but I'm so excited to be here. And the last time that Chris and I had a chance to come and talk to you all, I think was in December. And when we came, we wanted to introduce the project, and what we were talking about was a GOCO grant opportunity. The city was just embarking on putting together a concept paper, which is the first step for applying for a grant. If that concept paper is accepted, GOCO will invite you to write a proposal. And then if that goes well, you can potentially receive a grant. So in December, when we came, we were so excited about this opportunity, but I think our eyes were open to the challenges that we faced. So huge hopes, but we knew that it took a willing seller. It took getting the grant. It took support of council. It took support of the community for this beautiful property to be protected. And so here we are today, and I'm so excited to announce that the city received a $500,000 grant from GOCO that is going to make the purchase of this property possible. So it's a huge day for us all. And with this purchase, this property, you're going to see some more photos here. I mean, this is a truly iconic property, and I believe it's the largest single open space purchase in the city's history. So this is truly a legacy for our city and for future generations, a really big deal. So kind of by the numbers, it's 120 acres, really spectacular. You can see this is looking towards Woodland Park from the east side of the property, really spectacular. Big stands of ponderosa pine, open meadows, aspen forests, and then, great hillside. So 120 acres of spectacular property. The total cost was $750,000. As I say, that GOCO grant, $500,000, $523,000. One of the things that's so exciting for those of you that are rightfully mindful of sort of fiscal expenditure, the city of Woodland Park is chipping in $150,000. The community, through donations from the citizens, is contributing another $80,000. And already this grant was announced Friday. Already 50,000 of that 80,000 has been secured. People have committed that. It's remarkable, and I think it speaks to how much the community loves this. So what is so exciting is Woodland Park's percentage of the cost, 19%. So for every dollar that the city's kicking in, we're getting $4 in return. I mean, that's incredible. And when you look at the Woodland Park cost per acre, $1,250 per acre for one of the most spectacular properties in our region. I mean, really, really incredible. And then, of course, what else do we gain? A once in a generation open space property. So really, really impressive. This project wouldn't be possible clearly without a lot of partnerships and a lot of hard work. So obviously we need to say a big thank you to GOCO, Great Outdoors Colorado. They're lottery funded. These grants are available. You can apply. They're extraordinarily competitive, these grants. I gave an example. I worked on a project, the Manitou Incline, with which folks are familiar with. There's 350,000 people a year that hike on that trail. It took 3 rounds of applications to GOCO to get grant funding. This got it on the first round, and it did it in just a matter of months. So it wasn't years of planning. And I think that speaks to the support in the community, and I think it speaks to how special the property is. Another group is the Palmer Land Conservancy. They're going to put a conservation easement over this property, and that means it will be protected forever in perpetuity. So there can't be any development on it. It's going to protect public access forever. So that's a really big step. Of course, Woodland Park Teller Trail Team, and obviously huge amounts of support from the city. And in particular, I'd like to thank the Parks Department and Cindy Keating, who just worked like, I mean, she was working for the real estate office. She was doing legal. She became an expert in mineral rights. So, I mean, just a huge thank you for her leadership and time and efforts. I mean, it just wouldn't be possible. I know a lot of other folks at the city staff put in a lot of time, but it really does take a whole community to make something like this happen. Whoop, whoop, whoop. hold on here. Okay. Some other groups. So obviously city council, I just cannot say thank you enough to be able to come before you and have unanimous support in favor of applying for this grant and moving this project forward. That's such a huge deal. You know, things are contentious. It's easy to sit in the crowd and see some votes that are not unanimous, an awful lot. And it's really nice that the community can come together in this shared vision. I mean, it's projects like this that knit the community together. So thank you, council. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, we, without much surprise, unanimously supported this project, but I'd also like to thank the board, many of the members who are here. So maybe you could just raise your hand, the folks that are here and part of it. You can see the photo here on the left. So we did site visits. I mean, people committed from just pure enthusiasm to writing checks to taking part in the grants. There's my little daughter who is part of it. She's hiked on this property a lot, and I'm just I'm very excited that she'll be able to do that in the future, and then one day be able to say, hey, we all were part of this. That's a really big deal. And then of course the GOCO board with their unanimous support. So a really big deal from the city. Also, we would also like to thank you, Aaron and Suzanne. I know the planning department, legal, so many people. So, you know, this is just a moment to say, great job, everybody. Really, really wonderful thing we've accomplished. So, okay, that's enough of me talking. This is what it looks like, just so you have a sense. It's one thing to hear me say this is a spectacular property, but if you haven't been up there, this is what you're looking at. So at the bottom right there, you can see that's the mining scar, the Avenger mine. So when you drive by on the highway, you see that. But this gives you a good sense of those ponderosa forests, some of the trails, the views, the meadows. Obviously, it doesn't look like this today, but but that's a beautiful thing. You have the seasonality, and what's wonderful too is the trails. You have nice trails that are flat that almost anybody can hike on. You have some pretty extreme stuff. It's a really diverse property with a whole lot of potential and a whole lot of just as it is today, a whole lot of benefits for the community. So you know, just take this in. It's just a wonderful thing for our city. And already, you know, I just think it's important to sort of acknowledge what this might mean to our community. And I think Chris talked about it. You know, you can look at property values increasing. You can look at increased access to recreation, but I kind of like just the stories that this is just taken from social media and just the enthusiasm people have. You know, social media is another one of those spots you can see a lot of nonsense, just universal acclaim. People are very, very excited for this. And I think rightfully so. It's a really, really big deal. So if we can work this, kind of the next steps. So we received the grant. That's a huge deal. A contract needs to be signed. So the kind of the closing on the property hasn't happened yet. That's going to be happening pretty soon. So it's not yet official. So what I say to all of us in the community, how we can support this is just keep up the amazing work, keep supporting this project. Once it's legal, I'm supposed to say, go visit it. Okay. It's really wonderful. I mean, that's just a great thing you can do. Just go out there, go with your family, tell your friends about it. You'll really, really enjoy it. The other thing is I mentioned that community support. So the community is raising money for this to help with the acquisition. So if that's something you would be interested in, talk to Chris and I. We'd love to go hike with you, or you can go to tellertrailteam.org or go to the city's website. There's information you can donate. That money is going to help with the acquisition and potentially help with some of the kind of future progress that can happen on site. So maybe some trail improvements, some signage, things like that. And then as we go forward, maintenance of this property is going to be very important. So there'll be future work days, and that's a really fun thing to do as well. So with that, I'm all done. I just want to say thank you. Congratulations to the community. And we're very, very excited.
Thank you, Jeff and Chris. As they both have indicated, last Friday on March 15th, the Board of Directors of Great Outdoors Colorado approved its largest ever slate of investments totaling over $117 million for partner-led conservation, recreation, and outdoor access efforts statewide. We are excited to share with you tonight, I can't get the smile off my face, that Avenger Open Space acquisition was one of those funded projects. GOCO awarded us over $500,000, as Jeff had indicated, $523,250. This is the greatest or the largest GOCO grant the city has ever submitted and also ever been awarded. To this date, the city has received over $2.2 million in GOCO grant funding. And so I just say cheers to the partnerships with GOCO and thank goodness for Colorado Lottery ticket sales. Yes. Chris Obi, our GOCO program officer, wasn't able to be here tonight, but he was very gracious enough to send us a large check to present to council tonight. So guys.
Aw.
Up front. Yeah.
Yay. That's awesome. Thank you, you guys.
Yeah.
And finally, what I really wanted to say was congratulations to the city of Woodland Park. This is a great asset that we'll be acquiring in a short time, I hope. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about this project and where it stands and if you have any.
Council?
Cindy, good job. I mean, fabulous job. All
Thank
of you guys, kudos. There is, are you able to talk about the one area that you're still waiting on for the contract to sign? Are you able to talk about that?
Sure. It's all public information. So we've overcome some hurdles. Obviously, funding was one big one. Another one is, for those that don't know, this is all mining property, mining claim properties. So we needed to ensure that all of those mining claims have been conveyed, and they have 100%. So our next hurdle, which we're almost ready to sign with them, is with the Forest Service and getting some public access. I have been working with them very closely the last 3 weeks. Today, we've thought we may have found another solution to public access. So I think that we'll be getting this very, very soon. The Forest Service has been very supportive. They want to be partners with us in the ownership, or partners with us in the having these public lands open to our communities. And so they're working very hard with us to be able to get that public access. I do see that in the near future happening. Our closing date for right now is scheduled for next Friday. My fingers are crossed, because really all it is just making a couple changes in the title commitment in the exceptions portion of that. And that's just being able to change some words up, and then hopefully we can close. If not, we'll ask for another extension from the sellers, just knowing how close we are to this, maybe for a week or two until we can get the public access straightened out.
Thanks so much.
You bet.
Cindy, is the closing public?
I'm sorry, I don't know that answer, Rusty.
Okay.
Probably a title company.
Yes, it's with the title company, yes. So, you know, Jeff says I'm an expert. I'm really not an expert. I'm probably just have enough knowledge from this process to be dangerous. So when you ask me questions, I'm very thankful for all the smart people that are around me.
Anything further, council?
So once again, thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to coming to you with our next presentation stating we have full ownership of this property and it's open up for our community.
That's
Thank you very
awesome.
nice.
Thank you guys very much. All right, on additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda, I would like to know if council's okay if we just move 10B to follow 9C. It's kind of the same topic, so I'd like to just stay on that topic all at once with the STR stuff. Okay, so we don't have to wait for 10. All right, and then off to consent calendar. Council, do you have separate questions for these items at all, or can we take it as a whole?
Okay, take it as a whole.
Okay, all right. Can we get a motion for the consent calendar then?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll
Second.
Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Rusty.
Case,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Zulawaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Connors,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Labar.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
excellent. All right, we are off to item number 6, public comment on items not on the agenda, and I believe we have some people signed up.
We do. We have some for public hearings, but the ones that are signed up for items not on the agenda, we'll start with those. We have Costas.
Kostas Michakis, 245 Morning Star Court in beautiful Woodland Park. Good evening to all. I would like to take this time to remind the good people of my community that I love that when this council 2-3 years ago decided to legally allow short-term rentals in our neighborhoods, one man said, this is not a good thing. I must do something about it. One man out of what? 8,000 inhabitants we have in this community. His name is Jerry Penland. I met Jerry about a few months ago. We spent 2 hours together. And I found him to be a soft-spoken gentleman. But Jerry has a big heart, let me tell you. He loves his community, and he loves the people of his community. Jerry decided to run for the position of a mayor for the city of Woodland Park because of his love for the people. His vision for the community is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. I must underline for the people. He believed that this community needs a change. We've had a division, a schism the last few years, and I think he's the right man to become the mayor of our city, our leader. And he's the right man to bring us together as a community, because only together can we be successful and become a better community for all. Jerry believes in fiscal responsibility, and that's a very good thing to do. But also Jerry feels that he has the will and the experience to do the job leading this community. When Jerry worked years ago, he managed huge sums of money. He managed a lot of people, giving him the experience and the ability to do what must be done. I must tell you that when I met Jerry, I said, this is a good man, and we need someone like Jerry at this time. This is a good time for that person to become the leader of our community. I will vote for Jerry Penland as mayor of my city. My wife will vote for Jerry Penland for mayor of our city. My neighbors will vote for Jerry Penland for the mayor of our city. My friends will vote for Jerry Penland for mayor of our city. And I'm asking the good people of my community to remember that Jerry was the one who allowed us to take back our neighborhoods and recover the quality of life that we deserve. So please vote for Jerry Penland. And together, years from now, we will look back and say, that was a wonderful decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jerry Penland. I couldn't help it. I thought it was funny.
What can I say? I had nothing to do with this. But that does segment into this, what I do have to say. I had nothing to do with this either, and nobody else on here had. We've had this in our mail twice now. It's been in the newspaper. None of us were involved in this. This is absolutely bogus information, just so you know. It tries to tie 5 of us together. I called everybody on here. As soon as I saw it in my mail, I was shocked. I called everybody and not one person was involved in this. It's completely bogus, misinformation. When you drill down here, you'll see the disclaimer and the state level committee behind this, not the local committee, the state level committee behind this has a phone number in California, a physical address in Greeley, a mailing address in Colorado Springs, and as far as we know right now, not a single person in Woodland Park is tied to this. We have detectives looking, but nobody in Woodland Park is tied to this. So we'll probably get it again next week. I'm not sure. It's also been in the paper. It's their right to do this. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's completely bogus. Remember that.
Thank you, Jerry.
The next speaker is Kitten Walker.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Costas has prepared prepared the way for what I have to say. So last night was the Victory Life Community Involvement Team Forum. And all candidates, all certified candidates had been invited via email, and several declined, which was no surprise. It was totally expected. One never responded to 2 emails and a voicemail, no response, which was unsettling to say the least. And let me say that this has nothing to do with me. This does not affect me in the least because I already know how I'm voting, but this forum was for the community. People came and wanted to hear from all of the candidates. And so I want to say that on Monday, George Jones pulled out. He went back on his word. So I can say I would not vote for him because I would not trust him to keep his word on the dais. Don DeZellem is out of town, so I want all voters to know that Don DeZellem is on a work training in Pueblo this week, so he could not come. It was not his decision. I want to thank Dan Williams for coming and moderating. He and Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Stone were literally out in the community working to help those that are still snowed in, and they changed their clothes and came to the forum to keep their commitment. They are true community leaders. Frank Connors, Tim Northrup, and Eric Lockman came. They are true servant leaders. They want the people to know who they are. They want the people to hear from them. Unfortunately, Jerry Penland did not come, and I have already spoken to him. He knows that I'm disappointed, but he did let me know. I understand his position, and I will be voting for him. Every day people come up to me asking who they should vote for. Jerry Penland for mayor, Don DeZellem, Tim Northrup, Eric Lockman, and Frank Connors is what I tell them. So how much time do I have?
You're done. I think that's the sound.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Jesus, that this council will be flipped. In 2 weeks, we will see true servant leaders on this dais in Jesus' name. Thank you.
There's no more public comment, ma'am.
Okay, we are off to 9 public hearings. Got 9A, public hearing regarding a request from William Page for a 2-year extension of the time limit to begin construction. And we have CJ here to present that for us.
Thank you, Mayor.
And just quickly, CJ, I just want to clarify for council, staff has given us 2 options. So, and you're all aware of that, just, okay. I just wanted to be sure you guys were aware of that and clear on it. So thanks, CJ.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you, Mayor. And we'll also go over that in the presentation as well as a little refresher for you guys. So. Again, thank you. This is a request by William L. Page for a 2-year extension for the time limit to begin construction of the Best Western Hotel in Gold Hill Square South. The subject property is within the Gold Hill Square South Plan Unit Development and is located northeast of the corner of Gold Hill Place and Highway 24 as seen on this slide. On January 6th of 2016, the Planning Commission approved with condition an amendment to the Gold Hill Square South Planned Unit Development, which allowed for a lodging use, which included a 70-room Best Western Hotel and a redesign of building number 6 on the 1.37 acres. On February 4th of 2016, City Council approved the dimensional standards for a 31% maximum building site cover, 98% maximum impervious cover, 40-foot maximum height, 50-foot maximum lot frontage, and 0-foot front, rear, and side building setbacks. As seen here on the slide, there has been previously 3 2-year extensions for the approval in 2018, 2020, and 2022. I also wanted to state that from the original approval in 2016, there has been no changes to the municipal code pertaining to the Planned Unit Development Zone District. The city currently is in processing of updating our municipal code, but it's more of a restructuring and reorganization, which I'm sure council is aware of. Since 2016, one thing has changed, which was the comprehensive master plan. And this is the 2030 master plan. As seen here on this slide, this is a snapshot of the future land use map. So the arrow pointing to the parcel is labeled as downtown mixed use, which a hotel in that downtown mixed use area is consistent. The City of Woodland Park staff has received a complete application on January 19th of this year, requesting the PUD approval be extended for another 2 years. If the current extension request is approved by City Council, the approvals will be valid and construction would have to commence by February 4th of 2026. At this time, the proposed development continues to be consistent with the 2021 Comprehensive Master Plan, the existing zoning regulations and other standards, compatible with the surrounding uses and development pattern. On this slide is an updated rendering that the applicant has submitted with the application packet. On the screen is the proposed southwest elevation on top and the south elevation on the bottom. And here on this slide is the northwest elevation view. The application was referred to the entities listed here on the screen. Staff received 2 comments during the referral period. One was from the Colorado Department of Transportation, and CDOT stated that all future signage and utility work in conjunction with the construction of the hotel must comply with CDOT standards, specifically with utility work in the right-of-way. And the other comment was from the City Engineering Department, which stated that when the development occurs, the applicant must perform a new traffic and drainage study. Planning Commission heard this request on February 22nd and unanimously voted to recommend approval of the extension request, subject to the condition that the development is subject to all the conditions and dimensional standards specified within the original approval of the project number PUD 15-001 in January of 2016. As there is no regulations to assist staff does not have a position or recommendation on this extent request. As you all saw within the staff report packet, we have 2 resolutions for consideration tonight. One resolution will approve the extension request and one will deny the request. If council approves the extension, the past approvals will continue to be valid, and the property owner has until February 4th of 2026 to obtain the necessary zoning development permits and begin construction. If city council denies this extension, the past approvals cease to be valid. Should the landowner desire to regain the past approvals, he must start a new process requesting a PUD amendment for the desired use. The PUD amendment process requires public hearings with Planning Commission and City Council. And this concludes my presentation. We also have the applicant, Mr. Page, here in attendance tonight, if you guys have any questions.
Council, any questions or comments for CJ?
I do have one. You said it's essentially the same question that I asked 2 years ago. You said there's been no changes to the municipal code. What about the building codes? Has there been any changes to the building codes that?
I know there has been changes to the building code, but unfortunately, I'm just not purview with those codes to see if anything would really impact this development. Obviously, when he were to pull those building permits, he would have to adhere to all the, updated building codes with Pikes Peak Regional Building Department.
And I can chime in a little bit here for you. Your memory is correct, sir, that it was, I think, June of last year, when this council went and approved the changes that Pikes Peak Regional Building Department was doing to update those building codes. So yes, there has been a building code change. But to my knowledge, Mr. Page has not submitted any type of building permit application. So yeah, he potentially does need to update his drawings and plans so that he would get approval through that process to then begin construction. But he still also needs to finish with us with the ZDPs that he needs through the planning department before he can start construction.
Okay, so I think you've gotten to it.
Yeah.
My question, he will still be working with the city staff on the building codes to make sure.
The site plan and that
and
aspect
will
of it.
still
And,
comply.
and we work in cooperation with Pikes Peak Regional Building.
So if somebody who didn't have, 3 or 6 years worth of extensions.
They'd be designing to the new code.
It's the same as Mr. Page.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
CJ, I got a couple of questions. The first one's on page 74 of our packet, and it says the 46-foot maximum height.
Correct.
So is planning department's fine with that? Is Netco comfortable with that?
We did refer this application to Netco and we received no comments. As far as the planning department, we are okay because that's what council and planning commission approved back in 2016. So
Even though it's over height.
So within the plan unit development zone district, he changed the dimensional standards in 2016 and that's what council approved. So.
Okay.
And just so you know, Robert, we did, the DDA board received quite an extensive presentation 2 DDA meetings ago by Netco, which led to what I will be reporting on, the Netco ladder truck fund. The current ladder truck only reaches 35 feet.
That was my concern. All right, so the next one is on page 77. Let me see. A comment from CDOT was received on January 31st, 2024, CDOT communicated that no records of the access is being permitted in accordance with state highway access code were found. So that's a TBD, is that right? That'll be
That-
determined down.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. So, prior to the certificate of occupancy being issued, that they would have to gain a access permit through CDOT.
Okay. And my last question is for Mr. Page.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
And actually, CJ, I have a question for you really quick. If Mr. Page were to sell the property or pass it on to inheritance, does this project carry with the land?
It does. Yeah, so
Okay.
the entitlement of the development standards that I read and the use of the lodging use would carry to the future owner.
Okay, and is that something staff is comfortable with?
I'd say, I think, yeah, we definitely are comfortable with the use itself.
Okay,
Like we keep talking about, the process would definitely not be over with us
okay,
as far as construction documents and things like that. So,
okay, very good.
And
Thank you.
Mayor, I would
Yes.
like to add that this would be a 2-year extension.
Yes.
So heaven forbid something happens where
Right.
this does need to go in and ownership transfer through death. The new owner of the land is still limited by this time period.
Okay,
So there's an expiration date and they're potentially back in front of you asking for an extension, or it just dies.
Very
due to
good.
Lack of interest.
okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Page, you say you have a question for him? Okay. Mr. Page, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium. And I think council had a question for you, and if you'd like to say anything, you're welcome to.
My name is William Page, and I've been doing business with city council here for 50 years. Started in 1960 or 64. And so anyhow, this hotel project started out, the concept started out about 9 years ago. And I commissioned a market study by hotel analysts that do those kind of market studies. And they came back with some recommendations. And they came back with a specific, with what was going on in Woodland Park at that time, say 9 years ago, the amount of rooms we had and so on. There was anybody that came to Woodland Park to visit relatives and so on, if they couldn't be put up in the households they were visited, they had to get a hotel room in Colorado Springs. So anyhow, in this market study I paid for, they recommended with the existing rooms that were here and the other hotels that were planned, that they thought there was a void in a middle market. A middle market is a little more upscale from just renting a room, like Hotel 6 and so on, and the economy hotels you find on the interstate and so on. So they recommended that I contact Best Western. And Best Western had changed ownership about 6-7 years prior to that, me contacting them. And they were on a, they have hotels worldwide. And it's a hotel owner co-op owned company. In other words, all the owners have a right to voice their opinion about how the companies are run and so on. So anyhow, we contacted Best Western, I did, and the marketing director, their corporate office is in Phoenix. And he came here and I bought him lunch at the patio. At that time, it was at Carmen's Lunch Patio. And he really liked the location at the Highway 24 67 intersection. And so I want to talk about this middle market. Their middle market, they have required the owners that build to provide some meeting spaces in the hotel. They can be convertible spaces, but where you could have maybe a convention and be able to accommodate, you know, a couple hundred people or so on. And so our hotel is planned with that flexibility. Now, the existing hotels in town and the new one planned down at the south end of town that's been approved by, I think, a Patel family and so on. They don't have those capabilities and providing meeting spaces. And so it would make add to the variety of what City of Woodland Park should market to out-of-state investors. The marketing manager from Best Western, actually he's head of the company down there now, but he said Pikes Peak region has a lot of benefits that draw people from all over the country and in other countries. One is the Air Force Academy. The other one is Pikes Peak. And there's been new facilities built on Pikes Peak since then. And so, but those draw people from, and then Highway 24 corridor going east and west from Woodland Park is a trail end into Woodland Park. So I just want to say our plan is a little different than what's being done. And the other thing I'm going to say, this is a very difficult economic time to try to do anything. And, you know, the interest rate markets and the housing and everything and so on. So being in a development business, timing and cycles and funding and national economy, local economy, are all factors that play into getting things done. So that's about what I wanted to say. The Gold Hill Square South LLC is owned by my family members and myself. And I have my son Doug Page sitting here, you know, and he can carry on and do all kinds of things. He's a successful general contractor in the area. And so I'm here to answer questions, and I ask for your approval.
Very good. Council, questions?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Page. Firstly, thank you for your long commitment in the community to business development. Appreciate that. I'm looking, as I've looked through this packet, this is not the first time your extension's been before these folks here up on council. And so I want to ask you a couple of things. Firstly, it says that you think it'll be about 5 years plus or minus before the project would commence. Is that correct?
That is my, I'm going to call it gut feeling before this Woodland Park sat in their economy, and it occurs Bible College and other things going on. But the
Mr. Page, could you speak
you know, the travel is down, you know, our state parks aren't getting the visitors and so on. So, you know, that's about my best guess.
Well, I appreciate it's cyclical, but you've had 8 years now to be working on this. And the point that I wanted to kind of clarify with you is your leases say here it's going to be up in 2025 with the paint store. But how long generally are your leases? Are they, because you're 10 years here. So what's the cycle of your leases and why did you extend a lease when you're in the concept of putting in this hotel? Why didn't you make those decisions earlier?
The lease started out with Sherman-Williams about 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. And it was in 5-year increments that could be extended. Did that answer your question?
So in the time you've been asking for extensions, you've extended their lease another 5 years, expecting council to just continue to
Right.
extend your.
So I'm gonna be
PUD?
back. You know, let me remark about this 2-year process for PUD's approval. You know, if I was gonna do a building on a 50-foot lot, 140 foot deep, I'd probably 1 or 2 approvals and you get it done. But the properties that I own have multiple tenants and the change, the tenant turnover, we have quite a bit of tenant turnover, but new tenants show up that I hadn't thought of. So it's an ever-changing process with, you know, the amount of square feet that we have of how the spaces get occupied. And to have it, you know, when I bought my property, it was zoned commercial. I bought the property in 1964. And I could do anything. Everybody in Woodland Park was afraid to build anything because all the businesses failed on the inside, the south side of the street. And so I've monitored traffic counts for over since 1964.
Well, as I said, I appreciate your commitment to the business community in Woodland Park. I guess I just have one final comment and then request from you.
Yeah.
And that is, so we don't feel like we're just being at the effect of the convenience of your business decisions, and so that it doesn't look like you're not really serious about this project. I would like to see what it says on page 80 in our notes. It says the next steps in the process are an administrative site plan review, which would be reviewed by all the internal departments and external agencies, and the applicant would have to address any comments for approval. So my question to you is, if we are to approve this tonight, I would like to see that it has a conditional approval that should this come up before council again in another 2 years, that you have presented and completed a site plan review with the necessary review from the different departments. So we actually feel like you're moving somewhere with us. Would that be a fair request from you?
I would come back with a counter proposal. And
Good business.
What I would, my counter proposal, there ought to be maybe 2 or 3 different types of levels of a PUD approval and the years that they have to do. And it relates on the overall size, the history, and so on. And, you know, I have to get building permits quite often. And if I miss a cycle, I'm going to be back talking to you again about Gold Hill North this summer and about some expansion there. And but if I miss 2-year cycles of getting my request in, you know, I may lose 3 or 4 approvals. You know, this PUD approval, we got $50,000 invested in it, and then all the time and stuff, so. It becomes economically questionable with the current 2-year process of approvals. If you even want to consider the feasibility of a major project, there ought to be something that's different for a major, process or major construction that it ought to relate to jobs it brings, and does it fill a need? And and I don't have a vote. I've just been thinking about approaching city planning about considering something about adopting. You change your regulations quite often. When I bought my property, I could do anything with it that the zoning allowed. And when Don Howe and Brian Flair were city manager, city planning here, I got down zoned and all kinds of stuff. And I got all these, I'm gonna call them choker chains around my neck. If I try to go too far this way or too far that way, somebody's jerking you. So I'm just giving some examples.
Mayor LaBarre, I have a question for Mr. Page and I have two for staff. Mr. Page, if we did not approve the extension tonight, would that jeopardize your relationship with Best Western?
Excuse me, I'm hard of hearing.
If we don't approve the extension tonight, would that jeopardize your relationship with Best Western?
Relationship with who?
Best Western.
Well, I would say it would cause some jeopardy.
And may I ask, should we continue our questions with Mr. Page? I do have two questions for staff, but I can wait. Are there any other questions for Mr. Page? Okay, well, let's finish with Mr. Page and then go back to staff.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first one, it has to do with the actual height. Knowing that you're putting in a hotel that exceeds the capabilities of the fire department, if you could just kind of talk to me, what are you going to do to ensure the safety of the people that the fire department cannot properly protect?
I'm trying to turn volume up where I can hear you. Can you speak louder?
I hear you. It's my hearing aids that's
Okay.
causing the feedback.
Okay.
You have a height that is greater than what the current fire department's ladder truck can service. So you're going to have hotel guests in a potentially unsafe height. What do you plan to do to protect those people that are in your hotel at those upper levels?
You want to take over?
No,
Yeah.
I just want.
I'm gonna let,
Sir, can I speak? My name is Doug
Absolutely.
Page.
Yeah,
Help Bill out
I just
here
want
just
an
a bit.
answer.
So this request is just to give Bill the right to acquire and make this hotel maybe happen, maybe not, just gives him that right. But to answer your concern about the fire. Okay, to answer your question. The process just gives him the right to submit applications to planning, building. It's gonna go back to review agencies, so the NETCO is gonna see it again. And then if they don't like it and they don't have their new ladder truck, that's gonna have to get addressed. They're not gonna approve it at that time, if things aren't worked out.
Okay, so let me give it back to you, what I think you're saying. You're you may have to adjust your design to comply with whatever the safety capabilities of the
Right,
agency.
'cause
Okay.
we've got to comply with new city codes and standards, the new 2021 UB IBC or what, whatever codes in effect. Those will be the rules that we'll have to follow.
Thank you.
And the new review agencies.
Okay, which leads to my second question. I guess this is one of the problems when we have a QJ item. We can't reach out to the planning commission and ask them questions that they didn't ask or should have asked. In the CDOT's response, the planning commission didn't even ask you to address the fact that your design right now, CDOT has no record of any of the accesses being permitted in accordance with the State Highway Access Code. So how do you plan to get access to your hotel if right now you have no capability by the highway code?
I believe there is legal access to the property and there is a legal right to access the property. I think
It's a normal driveway.
right.
next
I
to
think what,
Wendy's.
it's probably gonna have to be the average daily traffic count studies and the traffic report, and that's gonna have to be submitted to CDOT, and then they're gonna give us a 100-item checklist to answer all the questions and.
That's fine.
Okay.
I've got an answer. Thank you.
Council, anything further? For Mr. Page? Okay. Okay, Mr. Page, thank you. And thank you for helping your dad. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So, CJ, I think staff had some more questions.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, ma'am. My first question was in the PUD approval the first time around, and I think I was actually around for that one. Did we dedicate water taps at that time? And if so, are those still dedicated to the project?
No taps have been dedicated, but we are serving the project as presented.
Explain that again, Kip.
There's already taps on the property, so those exist. Those would just simply serve the new use. We would do a water analysis to see how the uses would change, but I don't see any issues with that at this time.
So a hotel versus any of the other business establishments there would be roughly the same usage of water?
We've planned for that, correct?
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had is if in the next 2 years, if any of our zoning regulations were to change or be modified because of the code revisions, would Mr. Page have to come back again with a new PUD request before that two-year period expired?
Rock, paper, scissors over who's going to answer. So long as what he's proposing is within the parameters of this approval. So this is the PUD is the use and then some of those other dimensional standards that we've been talking about. That's what he needs to come back with. So he's really into with us, the rest of the site plan, the construction drawings for being able to actually come out of the ground with this particular project. If he wants to make the building higher, change where it sits on the property, any of those type of dimensional things, that's a PUD amendment and that comes back. So long as he stays within the lanes that are provided with this approval, he does not need to come back, even if that code shifts.
With if it's, the extension is approved tonight, there would be no continuing cost in terms of, the PUD extension. Would there be a cost if he had to reapply for a new PUD?
Yes, that's a new application. So there is the application fee at that point and whatever it is that he's proposing. Any costs associated with putting that application together that's typically borne by the developer.
What's the approximate cost on that? Look, I saw your face.
I don't see that side of it. So a lot of it's just the volume of drawings and what those whether it's an architect or a civil guy, a civil engineer person, who it is that's pulling all that together.
As far as the planning application fee, so this would be a plan unit development amendment. The base fee as of right now, could change next year, they have a potential to go up, obviously, but right now it's $1,041 for the planning application fee, and if it's 1 to 5 acres, it's $107 on top of that 1041 per acre. So that's the planning application.
Not a large amount of money for a large project then. Okay, thank you.
But if he had to redo all the drawings though,
Yeah.
that would be, that would be expensive.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, council, anything further? All right, can I get a motion then?
I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that,
Oh, I'm sorry,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
public
Oh,
hearing.
I'm sorry. Go. Yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot.
yeah.
There's no one signed up.
Okay, thank you. Now you may, sorry.
Okay, good. Thank you. Council, I would like to make a motion that we approve the extension of the PUD on the said property. However, under section 1 at the bottom, it said construction must commence by February 4th, 2026. I would like to insert before that where it says is hereby extended for 2 years, providing before the next request for an extension. And we insert the language on page 80 of our packet, which says next steps in the process are the administrative site plan review, SPR, which would be reviewed by all the internal departments and external agencies, and the applicant would have to address these comments for approval, that is submitted to the planning commission so that we see that this project is actually starting to have some flesh on the bones.
I'll second that motion, Robert.
Yeah, I was just-
We're twitching over here because
Yeah.
procedurally it's administrative, so it just goes to the planning department and not the planning commission.
Oh, it only goes to planning department?
Yes.
Well, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I misspoke.
No,
Yeah, we don't want to circumvent. No, we don't. Yeah.
well, we
Keep
don't
in-
want to create process where there isn't.
Well, just
something-
Understood. So Nina, I just want to confirm that what I say here is accurate according
Yeah,
to
that's what I was
your.
trying to say. So it's page 80 is the minutes from the planning commission. So I want to make, see if we could maybe
It's-
use,
Page 2 of that, of those minutes, but page 80 of our,
no, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of if there was so, okay, so you're saying you want to take this motion and amend it.
I want to amend it down on section 1.
So can you say that again, just so everyone can understand? And then I can
So on
talk about it.
section 1, the last line says LLC is hereby extended for 2 years, period. But I want to say is extended for 2 years, comma, providing that the and then you go to the second last paragraph on page 20, where it says next steps in the process are the administrative site plan review, SPR, which would be reviewed by all the internal departments and external agencies, and the applicant would have to address these comments for approval before the next request for extension. Because if he says it's going to be 5 years, that's, okay, I understand that. But I'd like to see some more meat on the bone on this before it comes back to us again.
Is there any-
I'm
That's
just
not
looking to
in the,
make sure.
that's not in the motion. The meat on the bone, that you can strike that.
I think the motion is to approve the 2-year extension, provided that a site plan is submitted in the next 2 years. Is that what I'm hearing?
Prior to the next approval, submitted and reviewed.
Okay.
So can I ask a quick procedural question? Because I don't have a problem with the approval, but I have a problem with the amendment. So if we vote against it, can we bring another motion to approve
As
it
written.
as written? Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seconded it.
Yeah, we have a motion by Councilmember Zuluaga, second by Councilmember Neal. Mayor, would you like me to take the vote?
Yes.
It's for the amended motion as stated by city attorney. Okay, Neal,
Yes.
Zuluaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
No.
Connors,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Labar,
Yes.
Case?
No.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-2 with Nakai and Case voting no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Page, for being here.
Thank you.
All right, we are off to item B, and that is ordinance 1472, and we're going to have Nina present that for us.
You just give me one moment.
Yep.
Okay, so it's been a long history in Woodland Park with short-term rental regulations. I think this would tie the bow, close the loop. So we know you've been discussing these regulations for many years. There's a voter initiative that addressed with Title 18. This was Title 5 regulations, which means how do you actually talk with the business licensing part of it. So what we did is this ordinance was originally from what the planning commission had addressed and what you guys had looked at. And then we had a work session maybe 4 weeks ago where tweaks were made and recommended. And then there was also slight tweaks made in your amendment for first hearing to second hearing, which are incorporated here. I can answer any questions that come from that.
Council, questions or comments?
Nina, have you reviewed this ordinance to be sure that it complies or is as it should be from a legal review?
Yes, I believe it does.
It does? Thank you.
Yes, but if you have any specific questions, you could ask.
Okay. That's where I'll start. Thank you.
Okay.
Council, anyone else?
Nina, can you just, Reader's Digest version, can you tell me how the language ended up, how I had brought up the difference between what was perceived as a 2-strike rule versus a 3-strike?
Yes, so anytime there's violations mentioned that it has some kind of reaction or replication. I'm trying to, so in the section for, okay, let's see. For issuing a license or for renewing, and then also for revoking, we said that there's no more than, within the last 12 months, there's no more than one cited violation. Before the draft had 2, so more than one is 2, and that's what council was trying to get at, that you didn't want 2 violations. Because if there's 2 violations, then you didn't want that application to be renewed.
Correct. We were in agreement, a 2-strike rule. Right.
So that's the amendments that I made in this ordinance, and that's what's in your packet, based on your motion language from 2 weeks ago.
Thank you, Nina.
You're welcome.
Council, anything further? Suzanne, do you have anyone signed up for this one?
I do. I have Arnie Sparnans.
All right, good evening. Whoa. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, my name is Arnie Sparnans. I live in the Sunny Glen neighborhood. And so, thankfully, the voters have already resolved in a special election the question of where short-term rentals should be permitted to operate. The resounding 1,593 to 693 vote margin reinforced that preserving neighbor integrity was the community's key concern with short-term rentals. We now have the appropriate zoning in place that reflects the community's wishes, and the city council can focus on the business regulations needed to license and manage the STR lodging use within our city. So it's worth noting that tonight's business regulations and good neighbor guidelines still have significant relevance for the surrounding communities of the short-term rentals that will now be authorized in the zoning table of permitted uses. And especially we need to, be sensitive to the short-term rentals that will operate in neighborhood commercial districts, because they're adjacent to our residential neighborhoods. So it's important that we pass ordinance 1472 as presented. What was missing was the penalty amount for operating without a license, which needs to be established by a city council resolution. I was happy to see the late change to the agenda. Haven't seen the details on what that looks like, but wanted to urge the city council to still bring on, initiating the penalties and having that established tonight. So basically just want to thank you for your efforts throughout the process. It's wonderful that we can now, tie the bow, knowing that, the community needs were met throughout the process as the final result. And then just even to quote Costa from earlier tonight, we can take back our neighborhoods. So thank you.
That's the only public comment.
Okay,
And council, I did want to show the new Good Neighbor guidelines that have been updated just to make sure there wasn't anything additional we wanted changed on there. I will share my screen real quick.
Excuse me, I didn't.
Well. Oh.
They're pretty.
Aaron, what I do like about this is that when you talk about a code violation, that you cite that code. I think that's very important as part of the guidelines instead of, I know we discussed before, talking about prohibiting some types of behavior that aren't even covered by our code at this point in time. So every time we feel that a short-term rental renter or rentee has violated a code, we should have that reference. And I appreciate that in this. And the colors are nice too.
That was our intention, to make it easy to read, but also to cite exactly where in the code or where as a resource that people can go to find it. So we did add the QR code to the fire information for the county. And I think it has a lot of useful information. It's almost identical to what we showed you before, just reformatted, so it's easier to look at.
I did notice under noise and outdoor lighting that you did not cite the specific code. If we could add that, I'd appreciate it.
Which section?
Under noise and outdoor lighting, noise and outdoor lighting is covered in the code. If we could add that as
Will do.
a reference.
Now, Aaron, are these going to be required to be like laminated, posted on at each unit? Is that part of the application process?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yeah, they'll have to be displayed in the unit.
Along with the parking diagram.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
council, anything further? Can I get a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve, I don't even know what the ordinance is. So approve ordinance 1472 as written.
Second.
Zulawaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Connors,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes, and thank you, Nina.
Labar,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Neil.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, council, I wanted to skip down to 10B since it's the same topic. That's resolution 919. And we also have Nina to present that.
Yes, and thank you, Councilmember Harvey. So this resolution is necessitated by the ordinance that you just passed because you mentioned in two places that the license fee and the renewal license fee and the penalty amount will be established by resolution of City Council. We always recommend that those type of fees, are taken out of the code and put into the fee schedule. That's because you could update the fee schedule more easily. And what I found is that communities that don't do it, they put in the code, it rarely gets updated. So in two sections, you mentioned that, and including the penalty section where where the amendments that were requested during the work session mentioned that the property owner will be subject to a fine and a penalty to amount established by resolution of the City Council. Now, if we go to the resolution itself, because that was before I was reading from the ordinance, I just wanted to say that staff has said that they are recommending a lower fee than what I put in. I had put in just my memory from the one of the work sessions that we're going to charge zoning development permit fee, but Aaron has said it would be a little less.
$100.
So if you agree with staff, then if you were to approve this resolution, you would approve the resolution with two amendments. One would be to amend the $167 to $100, and then the penalty I left blank for you to discuss. I think some people had mentioned $1,000. Some of my communities do the statutory height, which is 2,650. Some of you have said that's, too egregious, so that's why I left it blank to get your direction, but all these things could be done in a motion to approve the resolution with X amendments, and then it would be put into place. So you could discuss that now or anything, or let me know if you have questions.
So council, do you guys understand what Nina's saying?
Can you talk about that, Nina, is when you're talking about $1,000 or 2650 or whatever it is that per event, per day, per week total? What's the
So it's,
statute on all?
right, so I put per day, but that would, if it were to be per day, it would mean that the code enforcement official has cited that person every single day with all the background documentation needs to be done for that offense, and then taken to municipal court and proven beyond a reasonable doubt for each day. Practically speaking, I hardly ever see this done per day. I think it would be like it was a very egregious case and you wanted to expend your resources with your code enforcement official, sitting out every single day and doing those separate tickets, just for due process purposes. So we put per day just because that's what we put you have the ability to do per day, but it would need to be cited, separately per day and then gone in front of municipal court and gone through the whole process, convicted. And everything.
So what have some of your other communities done?
Per day, and Salida does 2,650. I've never seen anyone actually get that, but I think maybe just having it posted has that kind of chilling effect. We've definitely I've definitely had to write letters and cite to that. And then that has worked. Me just saying as a city attorney that, the violation is $2,650 per day. And then that they have, then I saw them come off, Airbnb and VRBO, which now I think the commercial state's called Verbo. I've seen other ones $1,000 a day. I think some communities who don't have such a strict feeling about it, they don't have it at all. You don't need to have it, it could be up to the discretion of the judge. It just can't be more than 2,650 plus inflation. That's from statute about 5 years ago. So that would be just my general range. I've seen if people have this in their fee schedule, it means that they really want to make a statement. So I've seen it around $1,000. You could also have, first offense, second offense, third offense. Some fine schedules have that. So where it kind of goes up as you, keep violating, because this would be for someone who's operating without a license, that didn't go through the city process. But I would say, what we do in other communities is we write that letter, and usually that has stopped. I've had that happen about 5 times in my different communities. And each time that practical approach has worked before we even needed to get to court. But it's because we had something to point to.
So just quickly, before we get into that discussion, does council agree with the fee that staff is asking for $100 for the licensing fee?
Step one.
For step one?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So now feel free to discuss the fine amount if you want to, or if you're comfortable with the 1,000, then we don't have to have the discussion.
Just to clarify, the judge can reduce the fine but not increase it.
Correct.
So that's important to consider.
Yes, it's at the judge's discretion as well. So.
This may not be reasonable, but what about a range? But then we just leave that to the discretion of the judge, correct? Set a maximum and then leave it to her discretion.
Yeah, you could change it to say maximum, you could change it to say range. That signals to the judge, you're the legislative body, that signals to the judge where you are policy wise with this. So when she gets to sentencing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of in favor of that idea, along with the idea of first, second, and third offense. So maybe like 500,000.
Well, there can only be 2.
What do you mean?
Well, but these
'Cause there's
people, they're
2.
operating without a business license.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that would give the judge discretion, and it would give her discretion at different ranges, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have a thought on that?
I'm fine with the 1,000.
Looks like there's consensus to leave it at 1,000.
That's right.
Okay, so then can we get a motion for this one, please?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 919, series 2024, as presented with an
Oh, wait.
amendment. Hmm?
Public comment? Is there anybody? Oh, this
It's
is
at
new
your
business.
discretion, it's a
so-
resolution,
right,
it's at your
okay.
discretion, but
We
no
don't-
one signed up. in
Okay.
now.
All right, sorry, I'm sorry.
That's
Kelly.
okay. With an amendment to reduce the $167 to $100 for the short-term rental license and a penalty with a maximum of $1,000, correct?
Per day, yes.
Per day.
I'll second.
How'd I do?
Great,
Excellent.
Got
yes.
it.
So where it's blank, I put maximum $1,000 per day. That's what will be.
Thank you.
Mayor, would you be willing to read, because the resolution was not in the packet,
Yes.
would you be able to read the resolution?
Yes. Would you
And
like me to
then-
read it before we vote on it?
Yes.
Okay.
So the
Is
public.
it
can
fair
hear.
then to let public comment?
Okay.
Oh, we already clicked.
City of Woodland Park, Colorado Resolution 919, Series of 2024, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Woodland Park, Colorado, updating the 2024 fee schedule regarding short-term rental businesses, specifically initial license fee renewal, license fee, and penalty for operating without a license. Whereas the Woodland Park Municipal Code establishes rules and regulations for the operations of the City of Woodland Park and provides for the establishment of fees for various city services throughout the code. Whereas pursuant to CRS 3115-501, the city possesses the authority to regulate the operation and licensing of businesses generally within the jurisdiction. And whereas pursuant to such authority, the city has previously adopted certain regulations within Title V concerning business licenses and regulations of the Woodland Park Municipal Code. Whereas the city recently adopted ordinance number 1472, Series 2024, amending Title V of the code concerning business regulations to license and regulate short-term rental businesses. Whereas ordinance 1472 provided that the initial license fee, renewal license fee, and penalty amount for operating without a short-term rental business license shall be established by resolution of City Council and amended from time to time. Whereas City Council finds it desirable, prudent, appropriate, and in the best interest of general health, safety, welfare of the residents, customers, business owners, and property owners of the city to adopt the following fees as it relates to short-term rental business licenses and to implement the intent of ordinance number 1472, Series 2024. Now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Woodland Park, Colorado as follows. Section 1, the foregoing recitals are hereby incorporated as conclusions, facts, determinations, and findings by the City Council. Section 2, the 2024 fee schedule is hereby amended by the addition of the following section under Planning Department Development Processing Fees, which section shall be entitled Short-Term Rental Business Licenses. Under that, it'll say short-term rental business licenses, initial short-term rental business license fee to be $100. And the renewal short-term rental business license fee is the same?
$100.
Okay,
Yeah, that's recommending.
okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Thank you.
And then penalty for operating without a short-term rental business license is 1,000 per day max. Section 3, this resolution and the amended 2024 fee schedule are intended to supersede all provision fee schedules adopted by the City Council. Section 4, effective upon approval, the city hereby adopts the amended 2024 fee schedule. The foregoing resolution is hereby adopted by the City Council of Woodland Park on this day of 2024, once we have a motion and a vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. So we do have a motion, and I'm ready to take the vote.
Yeah. Guess we need one
I
moment.
just want to make sure there's no further discussion.
Is there any penalty for violations, individual violations? Is there any penalties for violations, the good rule violations?
You had said you, well, actually you weren't there. During the work session about 4 weeks ago, it was a consensus to take that out of the way the ordinance was written. But otherwise, anything that's an actual code violation, any other part of the municipal code, has violations already in the code,
Okay, so the ones that are actually.
like a nuisance or a garbage.
The ones that actually exist
Mhm.
versus the ones that are just in the good neighbor, okay. Right, good, good question, good call.
And then just in addition, I have been explaining, really the teeth that you have once the person has the license is revoking that license. That's far more valuable than a ticket. But for this, $1,000 per day maximum that you're talking about, this is when the person doesn't have the license. So that's your only way is to go through municipal court. But otherwise, once they have the license, you talk about revoking the license, not renewing the license, and that provokes, that's better for enforcement and compliance because that has such a value. This license has much more of a value than paying a few $100s in municipal court for the business.
So Nita, I just want to further clarify what Rusty says here, and that is, we were talking about how when Aaron was going to redo the good neighbor policy, that we were not putting an imposition of a penalty on somebody in the good neighbor policy different than what our codes already say.
Yeah, I took that all out of the ordinance for in first and second reading based on the guidance from the work session.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yep.
And Mayor LaBarre, can you indulge me one more question before we vote?
Sure.
Do we currently have any instances with existing STRs where you have issued a cease and desist order? And if so, what's the status?
We have issued 2, I believe, and both of them have taken off of Airbnb.
Those are your letters I helped write with, because right now it was already that they didn't have a business license, so
Correct.
We
It
drafted the
was
letter.
during the moratorium, they were operating or advertising without a license, so
And is our moratorium still in effect?
yes,
until April 1st.
Okay, thank you.
But both of those would not have been able to get a license anyway because they're not in the right zone.
Okay.
All right, ready? Okay.
So Mayor, I have a motion by Case, a second by Nakai. Shall I take the vote?
Please.
Nakai,
Yes.
Connors,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Labar,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Zulawaga.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, very good. We are off to item C, and before we have the discussion, I do want to let council know we did receive an email from the Board of Education's attorney saying that they do agree to the IGA. So they will get it signed, or are they sending they're sending a signed copy, but in the email, it specifically says we agree to all terms.
Correct.
So I just wanted to let you all know that before we carried on. So with that, we have,
And I'm sorry, Hillary, we
Yes.
are on 9C now?
yes,
Okay,
yeah, for ordinance 1471, and I'm gonna go ahead and let Aaron present that to us.
thank you.
Yes, and as a brief recap, on February 29th, council and the school board had a joint work session, discussed the IGA and several aspects that were up for review. At the next council meeting on March 7th, council reviewed the IGA again and provided direction to staff to make those updates. The updates were made and the IGA was sent over to the school board on Monday, March 18th. March 18th. And then last night, the school board discussed the IGA at their board meeting and appeared to be in agreement with the included changes. They discussed making the review every 3 years instead of every 5, and they were in agreement with that. And basically insinuated that they were in agreement with the entire IGA, which they have now confirmed this afternoon with the attorney for the school board sending over that they agreed with the term. So I think that's it. You can open it up for discussion on.
Yeah. So council questions or comments?
For clarification, the 3-year review is to review the pass-through fee only, but it did include a requirement for an annual report to the council.
Correct.
And the implication last night, the BOE board meeting was that that was agreeable to them as well.
Anything further?
They did say that they would come though in May in lieu of July, which was discussed before because they're out, the school year's out in July. So May was a better time for that report.
So was that date changed in the IGA from July to May?
No, July would be the mandatory date.
Oh, so if they come early, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Anything else?
So the only problem I have is the IGA is not actually signed, correct?
Correct.
So I'm not necessarily comfortable voting to not approve this. I would prefer to table it until that IGA is signed or to a date specific. Call it July 15th, so then they can come before us, present their accountability, and we have the IGA signed. I would be happier with that. I'd be more comfortable with that. That's just my.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, and I don't have a dog, I won't have a dog in the fight. I won't be here if it's tabled to another council, but I'd still like to have a little bit of pressure on the board to come through, sign the document. And also for the future council to review the new clarity and accounting and accountability of the 1.09. And then that council can decide, yeah, that meets the intent of what the citizens are asking for. So I would go with tabling it until the July council meetings.
Catherine and I will both be here one way or another.
I know the two
And
of
we'll
you will.
remember your thoughts. Thank you.
And that not only gives 7 eyes looking at it, it gives a total of 7 + 5. So 12 eyes will be looking at it by that time.
Unless you will elect someone who's blind and never mind. Are you entertaining a motion at this time, or are you looking for any other discussion from the council
And we have
We have
comments.
and public comment? Okay, I'll wait for public comment, then I will have a motion.
Okay. Do you have anyone signed up?
I do. I have Nicole Wagoneer.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nicole Wagoner, and I live at 45 Leisure Lane here in Woodland Park with my husband and 4 children. I stand up here tonight to speak about the sales tax for the schools and ask that you vote to maintain it tonight. I am heavily involved with Merit Academy as a founder and current board member and understand very well how beneficial and necessary the sales tax money is for school operations, both for ours and the other schools in the district. I was at the meeting where the city council met with the BOE to discuss the IGA. Leaving that meeting, it felt very collaborative and positive in terms of the two boards agreeing on updates to the IGA and moving forward with them. I was highly disappointed at the city council meeting 2 weeks ago with the conversation first about an IGA and how that meeting had gone so well, only to be followed by discussion about removing the sales tax from our kids completely. I understand that the closure of Gateway Elementary, which was announced the day after the IGA meeting, fueled some strong emotional responses. I also understand that not everybody who sits on this city council agrees with or likes the current BOE. This is not, however, about them. This BOE will change. This city council will change. Elections happen and new people come into the fold. What does not change is the need for strong financial support for our children and their education. I agree with Mary Sikowski, who spoke at the prior meeting when she said that this council was being disingenuous. To many of us, it feels like this board is using the sales tax money as leverage to ensure you get what you want in terms of changes to the IGA. Either you agree with what we want, or we're going to take the funding away completely. What angers me the most is that through all of this, nobody focuses on the children for whom these funds are designated. Think of the programs that will have to be cut, of the teachers who will have to be let go, of the activities that won't be able to be held due to lack of funding across the schools. The very real negative consequences of removing this funding from our children. This is not a small amount of money. Every penny matters for the schools. This is also hiring season, and placing this kind of uncertainty in the air, waiting another 2 weeks, has negative consequences in and of itself. Trying to recruit quality teachers becomes difficult when there is a threat of significant funding source being pulled. It is my dearest wish tonight that you all come together and realize that this is bigger than this council or this BOE. This is ultimately about how our children will be negatively impacted if this revenue is removed. The taxpayers who voted for this resolution should be honored in the continuation of the sales tax funding. Our children should be put first and put above personal emotions and feelings. Please vote tonight to maintain the sales tax funding for our children and stop holding it over the BOE's head as leverage. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne, anyone else?
I do. I have Mary Sikowski.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Mary Sikowski. I live at 3330 Regent Drive. I was gonna pretty much read what I read 2 weeks ago. It's as redundant as this public hearing is. I'm really on the fence now if I even want to go through what I wrote at all before. I'm really disappointed that the discussion of tabling this for the reasons Nicole Wagoner just mentioned is even being discussed. I think it's disgusting to hold this leverage over the Board of Education when they have been cooperating with the City Council to agree to the terms in writing from their attorney. This just needs to be put to rest, and not holding the kids of our district as leverage to get the BOE to comply with your demands, which they've already said they will in writing from their attorney. So I oppose ordinance 1471. I think that you should vote on it tonight to eliminate this as being a possibility. This is around 14% of the school district's budget. And to Ms. Wagoner's point that she made about it being a huge component to planning for next year, it is a huge component to planning for next year, especially when talking about teacher salaries and such. So it would be a huge disservice to our community for you to table this to July. Thank you.
There is no other public comments.
Okay, thank you.
Pardon me? Oh, you did? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Anna Hand?
Absolutely.
Got it. I'm sorry. Thank you. Anna Hand.
Very good.
You should have actually been first, being it came online. I apologize for that.
No.
All right, my name is Anna Hand. I live at 861 Tiller Lane. And I'm here tonight to give my public comment on the matter of ending the sales tax initiative that is giving funding to our school district, which is not now fit to use it responsibly. I have lived in and owned a home in this community since 2007. I have worked for Woodland Park School District since 2008. I am devastated to be standing here tonight speaking as a private citizen of this city. I urge you now to shut down the sales tax monies being given to the administrative entities of Woodland Park School District through immediate action, clear accountability measures, or a strong sunset clause with conditions. You may be concerned that people will see this action as taking money away from our kids. Unfortunately, these monies are currently being redirected, misused, and stolen before reaching the kids. The leadership of our school district is operating as a dictatorship. Responsible practices are not in place to account for any funds. Even an elected board member has no oversight of funds due to the shady business practices embedded in a central office and operating in the shadows of our school board. When asked about the financial impacts of consolidating Gateway at the board meeting last night, the district administrators could not articulate the information asked for. Apparently, a new and expensive curriculum has been foisted on our elementary schools despite remaining years paid for with the current curriculum and no official adoption process. How does that give parents choice? The district schools have been told that no repairs or mitigation will be done as the roofs leak into student areas from the storm last week. The people in control of public funds are using them for private gains. Their agendas take precedence over our community and stakeholders. Sadly, monies entrusted to our district are being funneled into the pockets of lawyers, outsiders, and a charter school with its own independent board. 2 of our 5 schools, 40%, have been thrown away at the expense of students, parents, teachers, staff, and taxpayers. I was involved when the sales tax initiative was negotiated and passed. Unfortunately, since then, this district has been taken over. According to the audited budgets from 2022 and 2023, before this board and with this board, The central support services line item has increased 76%, over $500,000. The lack of transparency leaves us to wonder what exactly those expenses are. District general administration line item increased 39%, over $400,000. These are tax dollars. Outside monies and interests are influencing our elections, policies, and what used to be a quality public school system entrusted with educating our community. Brad Miller's firm has taken tons of money from the district budget to lose First Amendment and other cases. Karis has declared publicly they want to control our city entirely and keep all of their tax exemptions. To exert this control, they pack school board meetings advocating for policy and action and financially influence school board members. The superintendent of any school district is responsible for overseeing the budget. Our leadership at central office is highly underqualified and overpowerful. Our Colorado state budget is promising to fully fund schools for the 2024-2025 school year. Prior to this, the budget stabilization factor has limited school funding significantly. When we voters of Woodland Park passed the sales tax initiative, the district released 6.725 mills that had been levied in property tax. Fiscal conservatives.
I
should
don't
be
mean to
pleased-
interrupt you,
Oh, sorry.
but you read as fast as you could and you did a good job, but.
Okay. I'll just end with, because of the buy down of the budget stabilization factor, per pupil funding for next year is projected to be at $11,065.32, which is a 7.7% increase, which means we shouldn't need the sales tax money to make up for shortfalls anymore.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone else. Okay. That
Okay.
will close public comments.
All right. And Councilwoman Harvey, you said you had a motion.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to move to table ordinance number 1471 to a date certain of 18 July 2024 and continue public comment at that next iteration.
Can we just change your first, when you said table, can we change that to continue?
Continue, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first by Harvey and a second by Neil. Connors,
No.
Harvey,
Yes.
Labar,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Zulawaga,
No.
Nakai.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-2.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are off to 10 and we are off to 10A. And that is resolution 918 and our director Kip Wiley is here. He's going to stay seated for obvious reasons. So.
Thank you for that.
He's not even supposed to
Otherwise, we'll be here all night. Thank you, council. Before you tonight is resolution 918, establishing water and sewer tap plant investment fees. Council will recall, we bring this to you at the end of March every single year to establish tap fees effective April 1st, moving forward. So I'm gonna do my best to share my screen here, so bear with me. I did provide, or Suzanne provided you a packet for the spreadsheet. So you can better see it if it doesn't come up large enough on the screen. So you've seen this spreadsheet before. This spreadsheet basically lays out all revenue and all expenses, and then also a plan moving forward. We read the spreadsheet from left to right. Everything above the dotted line is actual numbers. Everything below is projection. Okay. Before I get into all the details, bottom line up front, I'm asking for a 20% increase in water and sewer plant investment fees effective April 1st, 2024. And I'll get to that. I'll show you how we got to that conclusion. Also with that, this has been presented to the Utility Advisory Committee over for analysis, and they have recommended this move forward to City Council. So moving from left to right, on the left, you see columns A and B. Obviously, you see the years, and then the next column, column B, is taps available. Moving over, column C1 and C2, those are how many taps we sold in those classifications, and then for a total number of taps. And then moving on to the right, you have an average tap fee for the year, and then the tap revenue. You'll see in column F, tap revenue in 2023 was significant at $1.1 million. I will say the factor in that were 6 commercial taps for the student housing at Karis Bible College. Moving on to the right, where you see the yellow highlighted, 568. That's how much each customer paid for the year, basically, for water. Moving on to column H, 2.2 million, that was total revenue for the water fund, just in metered water sales. Miscellaneous revenue, but that does not include the tap sales, okay? The second highlighted yellow is $61.39. That is how much each customer paid for the year in capital replacement fees for the water fund. Moving on to the right, just above the dotted line, you'll see total customer revenue, operational costs, debt service, capital service, and then obviously a total for the end of a fund balance of a projected fund balance at the end of 2023 of $10.5 million. So with that said, everything below the dotted line, you'll see I have highlighted where I have highlighted in green. There's light green and dark green. The UAC felt it was applicable to look at future years as well, to establish, I'll say, some flow with the fund balance. Last year, we started at 20% for a tap fee increase. We settled with 15. This year, we're asking for a 15%, like I said earlier. However, for the next 3 years after this year, we have a projected of 20% increase in plant investment fees. This year and the next 3 years, correct. To be able to withstand, I'll say, a operational healthy fund balance. You'll see moving to the right, I have highlighted in blue. I have the 598 number. That is what we anticipate for what each customer will pay in 2024, because also effective April 1st is the rate increase, the annual rate increase with inflation. The inflation rate was 5.22%. Also have that included in column I, which is the other highlighted blue column to the right. That 5.22% is included in that as well. And then I also have highlighted in purple and pink future years of a 5% increase and a 3% increase in commodity rates for existing customers. Everything below those highlighted numbers is a 2.5% increase factor, which is slightly below the 12-year average for inflation. Also, just below what's in the green highlighted numbers is a 5% increase for tap fees every year moving forward. And the big crystal ball here, if it was clear, I would know how many taps we could sell every year, and it would be easy. I don't. In column C, you can see just above the dotted line, 49 taps. That's how many taps we sold, to include all taps, residential and commercial, in 2023. We've been pretty lucky over the last couple of years in regards to tap sales. Moving all the way over to the right, you see what I have highlighted in red. I bring that to your attention because our fund balance dips below $1 million. I think it's really ironic because in 2023, we received $1 million in grants with the ARP money to pay for the Dove project. If we did not receive those, we would be in the hole. I'm going to change my slide, or I'm going to change my screen to a different spreadsheet, because there's 2 other spreadsheets that pile into this one. This spreadsheet is column N on your spreadsheet, which is the 4th from the right. This is tracking all capital expenses. So everything above the dotted line is actual, everything below is the plan. I just want to point your attention to everything above. In 2023, we spent $237,000 of money out of the water fund. Like I said before, 1 million, it was a grant through the ARP money, so it was really 1.2 million. That included a Twin Lake share, some of the Dove project, meter replacements and the valve exerciser that council approved that we brought to you in 2023. All right, moving forward to 2024, the big ticket expenses here are $1 million down payment on the reservoir. That's basically the design. I have that number, we've had that number in here for years. I think the design's gonna come in a little bit higher, around 1.4 to be honest. But I don't have that number for you yet. Hopefully I'll be bringing to you a contract in the next couple months in regards to the reservoir engineering. Okay, the other expenses in here is for the total on all the way to the right, just below the dotted line, the 4.3 million. That includes vehicles, VACCON, sub-base improvements. If you'll recall, in the budget, we had the Gold Hill tank at $2.3 million. So all that's accounted for. And then for future years in 2025, I actually have a $3 million down payment on the construction for the reservoir included in here. And then $1 million for some of these other things you see, golf course wells 1 and 2, surface diversion, which will probably change, to be honest. 3-phase power to the water treatment plant, other projects that we need to complete. Future years, other sub-base improvements, water treatment plant upgrade, so on and so forth. But this is the game plan for what the projects we need to do. Any questions on this sheet before I go to debt service?
Sure. Kip, I don't understand the golf course, wells 1 and 2. Are we in negotiation to purchase those, or?
Those are wells that we have planned to drill. And they're just because they're in the golf course area.
That's why they,
yeah.
okay.
Currently, we have golf course hole 11 that we pump all the time.
Okay.
So we've been waiting to develop those sources as the city grows and develops, because we don't want to put burden on those properties. But there are easements in place, and we have those locations already nailed down.
Do you also have a set aside for potential water share purchases?
Those are also part of all of our every year budget in here. I don't actually call it out. You'll see in 2026, I do have a Twin Lake water purchase. But in future years, you'll see that in there as well. It's hard to budget those now. I'm anticipating the increase in costs, those going up significantly. So, good question.
Kip, my question simply comes out of that last conversation. If somebody gets a hole in one on the 11th hole, does it affect our gallons per minute flow?
The pump won't like it. So, any other questions on this before I switch to a different spreadsheet? Yeah. Bear with you. It's not coming up. Oh, there it comes. Okay. The next spreadsheet is the debt service. This is column M on the main spreadsheet, which is the 5th column from the right. This is basically tracking all projects that we have funded and we have debt service on. Basically, what you see here are 4 projects. I'm happy to report since 2001, we have had 0 debt in the water fund and been able to save moving forward for the reservoir. So with that said, everything above the dotted line is actual, everything below is the projection. What you'll see, the 4th column from the right, the $150,000 debt service, that is to expand our conveyance capacity with the Homestake pipeline. That's been in here forever. Moving on to the right of that column, the $641,000, that is the $10 million debt service that we are projecting for the reservoir for 20 years at 2.5%. One thing I did fail to mention is we are pursuing grants for the reservoir, so I'm hoping these numbers won't be as large and we'll be able to pay more or have more money instead of financing so much. Does that make sense? Okay. And then in 2027, the 2nd column from the right, you'll see the water plant upgrade. We have budgeted a $2 million down payment and $2 million in financing to do the water plant upgrade. The plant was expanded in the early 90s and it's due for some tender loving care. Any questions on debt service?
Yes, Kip, on the $2 million over 20 years, is there any other possibility to pay that off or raise the funds without having to carry it for 20 years?
Depending on tap sales and what future councils decide, there is opportunity to pay more for that, or even look for even grants and those type of things.
Are there grants available for water upgrade?
I'm
Plant
not the
upgrade?
grant expert, but I'm sure there's some. I mean, we just got $1 million for a new pump station. Sure, we can find something out there.
It all depends on the timing. That's,
It just seems we've been doing so well. It just seems unfortunate for a $2 million expenditure to stretch it out over 20 years. That's my comment. So
I agree with that. We try to avoid that at all costs. Just depends on where we're sitting and what other new requirements come down the pipe, if you will.
And is the interest on that 2 million the same 2 or 3%?
That's at 3%.
That's at 3%.
Yeah.
Maybe we could reopen that mine we just bought.
Oh, that.
the Avenger project.
Kip, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I don't know how to best word this, but when we had the economists come in and talk about how expensive it was to build up here and how we really need to consider making it more affordable because it's almost nearly impossible. Between the cost of the tap fees, because that's what the builders are gonna have to pay, and that's what part of what makes it so expensive to come in and build here. With the residential water bill, like, to what limit would you need to increase that in order to not have to raise the tap fees?
Well, let me rephrase it a little differently, the way I see it, and I'll answer your question, but I've talked with local builders who build in the county, and it's 3 times more money to drill a well and put in a septic system than it is to connect to our system. So I say we're pretty affordable from a water and sewer standpoint. The other fees are the other fees. I don't get into those. But to answer your question, I did look at commodity rates and how much they're paying compared to how much the tap fee increase is. And just to kind of put that into perspective, the 5.2% increase on $2.2 million is roughly $110,000. If we sell 30 taps, with this 20% increase, it's about $112,000 increase in revenue. So it's almost a same apples to apples when you look at existing customers, new development, but it all hinges on how many taps we do sell.
Right.
So that's the tough part. And over the years, I haven't done it recently. When I say that in the last year or two, I've compared what existing customers have paid and what new development has paid, and it's been about a 60-40 split to where existing customers have carried the load around the 60%, where new development was around 40%. Now, there are other fees when you talk about new development as far as water main installation, those type
Right.
of things, but they need that to serve their
Right.
property. So
Right.
I don't know I hope I answered your question.
Sort of, yeah. I'm just wondering economically, if the fee were increased, and I'm one of those people, but if the fee were increased on the water bills for all the residents, it's spread out amongst more people. And then when the builders are able to come in, if they didn't have to have the increase in the tap fee, they're bringing more residents to then shoulder that fee as well. And I'm just wondering, because of what the economist said and trying to figure out ways that we can further, appropriate development here, if there's anything economically that can be done that way.
Right, and here's my fear is once we're built out, there's no more tap fees. Existing customers are gonna have
Right.
to carry the load anyways.
Right.
Now that's hopefully a long time from now.
Yeah.
Just trying to plan for that, is within reason, obviously.
Sure.
And I hate to be, I'll say cold, but when a home builder comes in and wants to bark at the tap fees, I'll gladly say, there's the county, go drill a well. So it's tough, and I understand what you're saying.
Right. Well, I'm not worried about the county being able to build. I'm worrying about Woodland Park being able to build and maintain property taxes for all of the residents, because it needs to be spread out.
It
So
does.
if we don't allow building, and the property taxes go up, it's just gonna increase on each resident, and so will the water tap fees, or no, not tap fees, I'm sorry, but so will the water fees eventually anyways. So maybe at the next UAC meeting, I know the math is also a lot easier to just do it on tap fees, but if there's ever a way that we can figure out how to manage not increasing the tap fees every single year, because it may be one of the only ways that the city, we can't incentivize, but it may be one of the only ways we can actually technically incentivize building. I don't know. So,
Well, and we have this discussion every March, you and I.
yeah, I know. You and I do. I know.
Um,
So,
Well, and that's the tough part. It's a balance.
I know.
It truly is. It's, I would say we have done assessments on just collecting tap fees around the region and we fall in the middle.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty confident that when they want to say our fees are too much, we have proof we're in the middle.
right.
So as far as the tap fees and even rates, we're somewhere in the middle, which is where we want to be, in my opinion.
Yeah,
If our rates are too high, people aren't going to want to live here because they don't want to pay their water bills.
right.
So it's that balance.
Right. It's trying to find that.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not saying the fee is way too high. I'm just saying, I wonder if there's a way that we could do this economically. Because it's one of the only things that council can kind of control. But I also understand that utilities is the only business side of municipal government. And so you need those fees in order to maintain structures and infrastructure and
Okay.
everything you need. So it's a fine-edged sword with it. So,
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Because that is the tough part. It's the only business where we promote, don't use our product because we
Right.
need to save it.
right.
So we don't have any revenue, you know,
Right.
and at the same time, people need that. And if you're a business, you're trying to sell that product. So
Yeah,
it's tough.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, I'd just like to give a year's perspective. We had this same meeting on the UAC and both Catherine and I are on the UAC.
Mhm.
And Kip brought us a recommendation last year to raise the tap fees 15%. And he showed us the numbers and we all on the UAC recommended he up it to 20%. Well, he's so darn conservative, he left it at 15%. So now a year later, we are forced with looking at the reality of what it looked like if it stayed at 15%. And his numbers that he's got in red over there were dangerously low. So we said, no, you've got to look at it at 20. And then we had him go through and look at what it would look like for the next 4 years, just so that with the forward projections that he had, that those numbers didn't fall below a reasonable cushion level. So I just want to commend Kip for being as conservative as he is in this. And this is one of multiple spreadsheets this man has. And he has, at least when we listen to him, he gives a download, for hours and hours. Our meeting was 3 hours or something? Not the last one. Last one was actually an hour because we had something else, but it's like 3 hours and he's got cross-reference spreadsheets where he's looked at this from each of the different angles that you're indicating. So I just want to say from a perspective of being on the UAC,
Mhm.
he's doing a really diligent job to kind of balance all the different pieces.
Yeah, I sat on the UAC for 4 years,
Oh, did you?
so yes. And I've met with Kip, and when I first got elected, we'd meet often because I really wanted to understand this. And I have to give kudos to you. Kip is one of the most excellent city employees we have, and we're incredibly fortunate to have him. But every year I ask him the same thing on record. Because it's not just up to Kip too. If other people can come up with other ideas or other propositions or other ways to get things done. And now just having an economist come in and tell us we're in dire straits with affordability for building here. And we have no way to incentivize building. What can we possibly do? And so each year I ask that to Kip and I just put it in his hat and hope that someone else on council or who sits on UAC may remember to ask that too. So
I made a note for next
very
year.
good.
Maybe one of these times he'll answer differently.
Maybe. So,
Well, I would say, for a 3-year span, there was a 0% increase in 12, 13, and 14.
yes, there was.
You know, and then in 2021, we forewent the rate increase to our customers
Yes.
for COVID relief, if you will. That was a 1.9%. You know, and it's been a challenge. Back in 2017, we had to change our inflation factor from, it was 75% of the inflation factor to the 100% because we were falling behind.
Yeah.
And we're trying to keep moderate changes, not up and down and all
Right.
around. But I thank you for your comments. You all entertain me very well with obliging me, I'll say.
Well, we thank you for your work. So,
With that, basically all the way to the column on the right, you'll see back in 2020 or 2038, we'll maybe make it back to where we are today, assuming this crystal ball is completely clear. And these projects come to fruition and not a whole lot changes. I will say though, the Dove project that we just completed was the $1 million of ARP money. We just did that same project 3 years ago, and it was 400,000. The cost of things has went up significantly. So with that, per the UAC and my recommendation for 2020, April 1st, 2024, adjust water and sewer plant fees 20%, which would make the average tap. When I say average, I guess to piggyback on what you said, Mayor, is in 2000, we went with a different tap fee structure for apartments. In 2012, we established the tiered tap fees for single family homes to the more water fixture units in the house, the more expensive the tap was. So we've done things like that.
Yeah.
We could continue to look at water sense. The UAC will be looking at reuse, all kinds of things coming up to maybe help in those areas.
right, maybe xeriscape being required or
Right.
working with the planning commission and council,
So there's
stuff like that.
areas like that. We're working with Nina right now on just uses and establishing values. Even if there is any new annexations, what it truly looks like to bring water
Yeah.
to the table. Just like Colorado Springs did a little bit ago, any new annexations, I think they have to bring 128% of the water instead of just what they think they're gonna use. So
Right.
things like that, we're looking at currently. And it's been busy.
In the days that we had a lot of annexations, there was a requirement that people bring water. To new developments, we used to require them to bring water. And I think that was, but we don't have that anymore. It's been a long time since we've had an annexation.
You're correct, but I think it is still in the code that.
It is, but we
It
haven't
is.
had any, so we haven't had that opportunity for outside sources to bring water to the table.
And we're just looking at refining that, even that little portion of it. So the utilities code is getting some work done on it right now.
Good.
To put it nicely.
Literally writing it as we speak.
Good
Because
job.
we've met
Thank
a
you.
lot with Kip and we're and Aaron and Karen, and we're our office is drafting all different types of recommendations to really help with that.
Great.
Mayor?
Yes.
And I'm going to have some sort of a introductory stumbling on my question because this is probably the most complex part outside of the budget stuff that we tackle every year. Because social media, there was a graphic of a lot of development out at Andrew Womack Ministries, and that led to a discussion with the city manager during my bi-weekly meeting. And he let me know that you had recently met with a team from Andrew Womack Ministries to discuss that whole development plan. How does that plan change any of these numbers? And the only real numbers that I get worried about is the two in the, the Q column in 27, 28. Does that plan that they have, the big master plan and water, change anything on here before we start voting to approve it?
If council approves new plans, we have to take water into discussion. As of right now, this is just per the plan as the city develops today. That does not include any new rezones. That does not include any new or any changes in PUDs like we talked about today with the hotel. That does not include those. So
So those new buildings would change a lot of these numbers.
So that would be up to council.
Glad I'm not gonna be on council.
This might be, yeah, part of a quasi judicial thing in the future, so. I'm just, this might, I don't want to, if we could.
Any future amendments would be QJ, so we just want to be careful that we're.
The current use.
Yeah. Current use.
Yeah, but the question really, Nina, is would these numbers change with future development? And the answer is they could.
If the plan changes, the numbers change.
Yeah, plan changes, numbers change.
So an average tap fee will go for an average tap fee. When I'm saying an average, it's a tier 2 residential tap, which is about a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home with a dishwasher and clothes washer and those type of things. A normal house will go from 17,620 to 21,144. And that was provided in your packet as well. We broke down all those fees and what it looks like. So it's about a $3,500 increase on an average single family home.
Kip, I think what Rusty's asking would be, so if you then looked at what the commercial tap fees are, that, for example, that Andrew Womack Ministries is paying now, what does it go up to with a 20% on a commercial tap fee? Do you have those numbers there?
That's in your packet as well. I don't have them off the top of my head. It all depends on what size tap they.
What size tap fee it is? Right? So yeah, so this is gonna go first.
And just for council's recollection, when we're budgeting, we budget for residential taps because we do not, I'll say micromanage our commercial taps. We say our residential population supports our commercial growth, right? And we break our water down into a total water number. So, for example, let's just say we have 1,000 acre feet a year we can have for water. Okay, we break that down into a population. And within that population, it's commercial uses, city uses, irrigation, residential uses. It's all broken down into that with a small cushion. So that's how it's broken down. I'm getting into the weeds, I know, but so I'm not, from the commercial side, I'm not anticipating any, and I say that in my memo, any big projects. Don't count your chickens, if you will. It was like when Trail Ridge came and built, you know, that was 168 units roughly. That was a lot of taps out of the tap bank. And that's a cheaper tap rate because it's apartment, they use less water. And that lowers your average tap fee that year. I think it might still be on here. It is 2013. The average tap fee was $5,547 because of all those apartments that came in with the lower fee. So this is not an exact science. We're just doing our best to plan.
Kip, let me give you Robert's kind of explanation for dummies, i.e. me. So column E is how you kind of handle it. Those prices could go up. The one I worry about is column Q. Column Q will not change because you handle it in column E. So that's what I'm really after. Thank you. Water for dummies.
With that, I recommend approval of resolution 918. Sorry, Mayor.
All right. Council, can I get well, Suzanne, do we have anyone signed up?
We do not.
Okay.
Then I will make a motion to approve resolution number 918, series 2024, establishing water and sewer plant investment fees effective April 1st, 2024.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Harvey,
Yes.
Labar,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Zulawaga,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Connors.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kip.
Thanks, kid. Awesome job.
All right, we are off to 10C and its approval resolution 920 series 2024, and it is a resolution of the city council for the city of Woodland Park, Colorado regarding migrant response and declaring status as a non-sanctuary city. And council, I had reached out to the monument mayor and asked if we could receive a copy of their resolution because it was well-written. And they sent it to me, and so we copy and pasted our city into it, basically, into the template. And so that's what we have, and I have the resolution here to read. Are there any questions or comments on it before I read it, or would you like me to read it first? Because was it in the packet?
It was.
It was, so.
Has everybody here heard it? I'm
I
just,
mean,
I think
the
it's
only,
appropriate.
the only thing I thought was entertaining, and I don't really care if it stays or goes, but the whole president
Yeah,
part, I thought was, he could care less what we say, so.
exactly. He
It stays or
probably-
it goes, I don't
but-
really care. That was the only thing I found entertaining.
well, Mayor, I just want to thank you as your parting gift to the city to do this resolution. So thank you for
You're
that. That's
welcome.
great.
Councilmember Harvey, I saw you had
Oh,
something.
no, please,
Okay.
I would appreciate it if you read it for the public.
Okay. Resolution number 920, series 2024, a resolution regarding migrant response and declaring status as a non-sanctuary city. Whereas the city of Woodland Park is a home rule municipality duly organized and existing under Article 20 of the Colorado Constitution and city's home rule charter approved by the election in 1977. And whereas the sanctuary city is a jurisdiction that limits cooperation with federal immigration authorities, limits or fails to provide information about immigration status, and limits the length of immigration detainers. And whereas the city believes in and is committed to securing the border, enforcing immigration laws to protect the community, and upholding the laws of the state of Colorado and the principles of the United States Constitution. And whereas the citizens of the city have expressed concern over the transport of migrants entering the country illegally into the city's jurisdictional limits, which may compromise the safety, well-being, and resources of city residents. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Woodland Park, Colorado, that Section 1, Incorporation, the recitals set forth above are incorporated and resolved as if set forth in this section in full. Section 2, Statements regarding migrant response. The city hereby makes the following statements regarding migrant response. 1, transport of migrants entering the country illegally into the city may compromise the safety, well-being, and resources of its residents. And 2, the city calls upon the President of the United States to take immediate and effective action to secure the borders and enforce immigration laws to address the concerns of the community. And 3, the city recognizes the importance of legal immigration and welcomes individuals to apply through the legal process. And 4, the city encourages open dialogue and collaboration with state and federal authorities to address immigration concerns and work towards solutions that align with the well-being and safety of the community. And 5, the city urges its residents to support and uphold the principles of legal immigration, respecting the laws and processes in place. And 6, the city hereby declares itself a non-sanctuary city, and it shall be effective with full force and effect immediately upon approval. Any questions or comments?
Awesome. Public comment? Are you gonna have public comment?
Suzanne, was there anyone signed up?
There is not.
Okay. So council, if I can get a motion for that.
I
So
move to approve resolution 920 series 2024 resolution regarding migrant response and declaring status as a non-sanctuary city.
Second.
Thank you. Labar,
Yes.
Case,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Zulawaga.
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Connors,
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we are off to reports. And I just have a couple of dates to announce. I have Parks and Recreation Department is hosting a spring coloring contest, and you can download or pick up the coloring pages and submit your completed page by April 15th for a chance to win a swag bag, a certificate, and your art will be on display at the Parks and Rec building. hop on over to the Aquatic Center for Underground Egg Dive happening on Saturday, March 30th from noon to 3. Registration deadline is Friday, March 29th, and the event is $10 per person. Dive into a new skill this spring and join lifeguard course happening at the Aquatic Center from Monday, March 25th to Thursday, March 28th from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. This is a great opportunity for those 15 years and above to learn life-saving skills. The fee is $250 and registration closes tomorrow, March 22nd. And did you know that March is National Quilting Month? To recognize and celebrate this craft, Quilters Above the Clouds, Woodland Park's local quilting guild, will be exhibiting quilts at Woodland Park's library for the rest of the month. The exhibit is free to the public and open during library business hours. And the last thing I just wanted to say was thank you. We had a presentation from Braver Angels earlier to help constituents and council members learn to communicate. And I appreciate that presentation, and I really hope that it helped the potential candidates for council. And I know our current council members, we've all been through it. So, but it was helpful to learn some new dialogue and ability to try to calmly and kindly communicate with people who may disagree with you. And I just want to remind everyone, because I see a lot of new candidates in the audience, the mayor's rule is stay off social media. Because even with all that we learned today, it doesn't work on social media. That training is really works for in person, but social media is a nightmare. Stay off of it. So, and that's all I have this evening. Councilmember Case.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to report a couple things. Parks and Rec monthly report, February of 24. The numbers continue to look good. WAC passes are down actually for 24 so far, mostly in the daily pass, interestingly enough. However, 24 programs are up significantly, almost twice. So we've got good revenue. We've got, I don't have a recovery percentage. It's not on here, but numbers look good and continue to look good. So kudos to the staff that's working in those programs. And again, the Avenger Open Space was a huge success and very exciting. It was fun to be a part of that. From PPACG, the meeting, we had a CDOT update, and there's a couple things. 67 bids for resurfacing. They were all rejected because they came in 40% over funding for the project. So they are sitting back until fall to reopen for bids. But in the meantime, this summer, the maintenance team will do a thin resurface to get by till we bid in fall to do the full reclamation of 67. However, from 24 north, from 1 mile, like I say, they're going to resurface and resurface in total eventually with the bid process once they increase funding so that they can pay for it. As I mentioned before, and I was questioned that the reconstruction from Evergreen Heights County Road north up to Woodland Valley Ranch Drive, I believe. No, the next one where the police station is. That is out to bid, and that will be happening to reconstruct for widening, drainage, and turn lanes up in the project where we're going to do that, but they're playing a bigger part in that than we had planned. So that is on the table and will be happening beginning this year. And we did meet, all the mayors of our region met at City Hall with Yemi Mobilati. I always get it wrong. Anyway, and one of the topics that we discussed again was the migrant, and he provided a stat sheet with a lot of data and information that I'll give to staff that might want to share. I think it would be interesting to the council and to the public. And we also talked about joint emergency management and a presentation from their Office of Emergency Management. And one of the things that I was able to bring up, and it took a couple times, was that we are not in El Paso County, and we are in Teller County, and also in our region is Park County. And so I reminded them of that because they were just talking about this collaborative effort of all the governments in El Paso County. And then I knew that they had a meeting after our meeting with the emergency management gentleman. And it was all the city managers and staff and et cetera that they were powwowing. And when I asked Aaron how that went, he knew nothing of it. So I have reached out to that gentleman in emergency management and reminded him that Teller County is not in El Paso County. And that Aaron would love to be included in that in the future, as would our other municipalities. So anyway, just trying to facilitate communication. And it was an interesting meeting. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Neal.
I have, what will be my last DDA report. Although I will be still the DDA liaison for the April meeting. So I will attend as the secretary. I'll write notes and then I'll pass it to the next council to decide how they want to handle the actual reporting from April. But I will probably volunteer to prepare the minutes then. So this is for the March 5th DDA meeting that was held at 7:30. Three items that are noteworthy for the public. The first is we received an update from the Tava House. Their preliminary plat is near complete, working with the city. And as soon as that is complete and they've gotten all the conditions that they needed to work on approved, they will immediately begin working on the final plat. The second item, the DDA board did discuss the changing of the design review committee from a two-person committee to a full board committee, so that every member of the DDA will have an actual say on any projects that come forward's design. That was only a consensus. A resolution is being drafted that the future DDA board will then vote on to actually execute that consensus opinion that they should move to a full board. And lastly, it's with a lot of happiness, I'm saying this one, the DDA did approve a $150,000 capital project grant for the initiation of funding a new ladder truck for Netco. The current truck we have is approximately 35 years old. It's only a 35-foot ladder, and anybody who's been around fires, Mr. Nakai, they know the value of having a brand new ladder truck. So the DDA has approved that. The expectation is they will be bringing that back to the council to approve a change to their current budget, because that $150,000 is in their reserve. So they would have to create a line item, which means the city council needs to approve that. But they will be bringing that forward to the council for a vote. And that concludes my last DDA council report.
Okay.
Can I add one thing to that? So I did meet with Tyler Lambert and several members of the board. The board approved last night accepting the grant from the DDA and also matched it. So they have $300,000 now towards it. So I will bring a supplemental to the DDA meeting at the next one, and council will have first reading on April 4th. I would anticipate for the supplemental, so we can get that money transferred over.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mayor, can I make a correction? The 67 North reconstruction, widening, drainage, and turn lanes are bid. The construction will happen in 2025 construction plan. So just to be clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Zulaga.
Okay, well, my last Keep Woodland Park Beautiful report is that there is not enough folks to actually hold a meeting right now. So if you have an interest in keeping the city beautiful and you have a friend who does, somebody who enjoys just pitching in or enjoys putting their creative thoughts onto a team, more members are needed, right? Yeah. So that's Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. I want to talk about the UAC from something that I was able to benefit the city with going to the Arkansas River Basin Forum this last year, or this year, so it was this month. Anyone who was at the forum debate at the high school last night heard the Dan Williams talk about how water is such a big issue in the state and how Denver is finagling, manipulating water well rights and different things, right? Through tweaking of legislation. And anybody who's paying attention, there's a super majority going on up in the Capitol. So it's anyone's guess who, what's the big fish eat the little fish as far as water goes. I just want to say this, for anyone who doesn't understand the seriousness of water in our state, we have junior water rights. Woodland Park is junior water rights on what falls on our land here. 100-year compacts with 5 surrounding states makes it really difficult for us to steward water. Well as the big cities vying for water, we have another balance, and that is when farmers retire and they decide that they are too old for it, or the kids don't want to continue the farm or whatever, that farmland, what happens is they go, oh, let's sell it to a city, right? They sell their water rights to a city. The problem is now we have farmland that can't be irrigated. It can only be dry farmed. So we have a balance in the state that we have to be mindful of. And the point I'm making by this is what I saw El Paso County do is very creative. And I'll give you an example. So a farmer farms a square piece of land, right? Well, El Paso County comes in and says, it's worth an investment to us if we put a center pivot irrigation on that square piece of land, and they'll pay the farmer to irrigate for the setup of the infrastructure to irrigate in a circle. The trade-off is that Colorado Springs then owns water rights to the 4 corners. So it's a win-win. The farmer gets maximum use of his land. The city is getting perpetual water rights on the 4 corners of that land. And we keep the balance between farming and city life. I really thought that was the best compromise that I've seen. Otherwise, you've got big fish eating little fish across the state. And the other takeaway was with a water compact, for example, on the Arkansas River Basin that we have with Kansas. Well, unlike some of the testiness that we have in our own community between different factions, there is no choice between Kansas and Colorado to not come to an agreement. They go before the Water Commission and they don't have an agreement. The ruling is go back and work it out and then come back and see us. And so they've got some really creative solutions that have happened in this state in terms of shepherding the water supply, not just for us in our cities, but in the farmland, and figuring out with people downstream who have senior water rights. So just in a nutshell, that's what I gleaned this year. I've been, I think, to about 3 different forums so far. And Kip, I still can't keep up with you. So thank you for all your work. And I just want to remind everyone listening that this council before you here, this is our last appearance before you. So between now and our next council meeting, you guys get the opportunity to select some of the folks sitting here in the audience. So choose well. And the last comment I have is anyone who overheard any of the Braver Angels discussions we had as a workshop here tonight. We have another Braver Angel Forum at the library. It's a bi-monthly forum, and it's on the words we use. And beautiful thing about Braver Angels is doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, you have opportunity to meet on civil ground and discuss your point of view with somebody who's got a 180-degree perspective from you. So the lady who's supposed to facilitate it isn't able to. So a gal who's 180 degrees point of view from me and me are going to facilitate this thing. So it's going to be fun. So if you want to learn some skills in that regard, it's at the library next Tuesday. I think it's 6 o'clock. So 6 to 8 or something like that. So with that, I have spoken enough. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Nakai.
I just wanted to thank council for approving the UAC sewer and water treatment plan. Thanks.
Councilmember Connors.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate everybody being here. Be safe going home.
Very good. Councilmember Harvey. City Attorney.
I just want to express gratitude for those who I won't be working with anymore. Councilmember Zulaga, Neil, Mayor, Councilmember Harvey. It's been, we started 3 years ago, a month before Jeff and I started our own firm. So it just feels like it's been a long few years, but it's been great. Our associates always say how passionate Woodland Park is, and they look at it in a highlight, you know, in a good way when they observe our meetings and that kind of thing. Anyway, it was my pleasure. So I want to wish you all well.
Pleasure's ours. Thank you. City Manager.
There we go. All right, I have 2 sales tax updates for you. One of them is quite overdue because we had a little bit of a system issue. And then the other one is the latest one we have for February collections from January. All right, so year-end report, we ended up year-to-date through December being up 2.1%. December itself was up 3.9%. And I'll go into a little bit as to what brought us down a little bit below our 3% projection. Lodging tax, we ended the year up 2.7% and was down 12.3% for that month. So our total collections for 23 were 8,462,000 for sales tax collected. And when we look at the chart, you can see that every single month we were up except September. September of 22, we had a weird anomaly and it kind of messed up all of our projections. But I did take that month out when I did the budget projections themselves. So we really were only, I think, off by like 15,000 from my actual projection for the 2% sales tax. So you can see that we were up about 3.5% every single month except September. I do think that we weren't really up. I think that's mostly inflationary based because of so much inflation that we encountered. So the revenues themselves were probably about flat, but inflation probably made up that difference that we had there. And then lodging tax revenue, I know it's been a little while since we've looked at it, but every single time we've looked at this, it's been 1 month we're up, 1 month we're down. So it was unpredictable all year, but we ended up just a little bit up for the year. Okay, so that's where we were for last year. Let's go to the next one. All right, so January, right into January here. All right, so January, we were up 3.8% over last year. We had 574,000 in collections for sales tax, and lodging tax, we were down 20%, which again, we had 15,587. I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball to know whether we're going to continue to be up and down on the lodging tax or if it's going to continue to just go down, but we will see. So here's the 3-year chart for sales tax revenue, and that January line is very hard to see, so I'll change that color for next time. But and then lodging tax revenue. I did add in here just real quick. I'll go through the lodging revenue breakdown for hotels versus STRs. So in 22, we had a 60-40 split. 60% of the revenue was from STRs, 40% was from lodging. In 23, it was slightly higher. We had 62% of the revenue from STRs, 38% for lodging, And then January itself, we had 48% was lodging, 52% STR. And that is a little different because when we look at the actual number of STRs reporting, in January of 22, we had 61. In January of 23, we had 68. And in January of 24, we had 40. So we'll have to see if that downward trend continues or if it's going to stay the same. But we'll see. I don't know what the year is going to bring just yet, but we're up 3.8% to start it. Any questions?
Council, any questions or comments?
You need to go back to the screen. Go back one screen. Look at that. Doesn't that look like the pedestal of a lamp? The pedestal of a lamp. Turn it up this way. It looks like you could put a light bulb in it and a shade on it and it would be.
It kind of
That's
does.
your educated comments. for the
Sorry.
evening.
You can put some of that
Oh,
liquid colored stuff in the
Yeah.
inside too. you know.
From the previous finance director.
I'm sorry, I just thought it was funny.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe Suzanne has an election update she'd like to share.
I do. Thanks, Aaron. So 5,870 ballots were mailed last week. We had a little snafu with 2 days of mail delivery not being delivered because of the snowstorm. So hopefully by now, everyone's receiving their ballots. 64 of the Uwakava ballots were mailed, so a total of 5,934 ballots were mailed. We take that number, that 5,934, and then we take all of the ballots that we get back that are undelivered and undeliverable. They're usually between 400 and 500. And then we use that number for our percentages for voting, like when the returns start coming in. That'll be our number to figure out whether 20% returns are in, et cetera, et cetera. We did the judges training yesterday. I have 8 wonderful judges led by Shirley Douthit again. This is her final year that she is going to be the lead election judge, and we did a great training yesterday. This room tomorrow turns into a polling place. All of the machines will come out, and then this becomes an active polling place in here. All the machines will be here, the ballots, everything, and that's when the electioneering laws begin with there's no campaigning within 100 feet of the polling place and that kind of thing. So anyone coming into this area in City Hall, they shouldn't have big signs on their cars or anything like that when they're parked out front. Now, council's all ready to say goodbye. I hear you guys saying, oh, it's my last meeting, it's my last meeting. We hope it's your last meeting, but there's a possibility. I do have to tell you, the election is April 2nd. If the election results are clear that we can call it that night, then the city charter says that the council would take the seat at the next meeting. If we can't call the election April 2nd, you guys are coming back. You're coming back for another meeting. I am sorry to tell you that. My hope is that April 2nd, we can call it. And what the meeting on April 4th looks like, you guys all still have to come.
Oh, I know. You get your own deal.
Yeah, you guys all come to the meeting April 4th. You'll take your seats on the dais. We'll do some outgoing remarks. Staff may have outgoing remarks. Then you'll step down. The new council will come up here, get sworn in, and then they will take their seats. So my hope is we can do with that on April 4th, but we shall see. That's my election update.
Suzanne, it was 5,934. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Suzanne. All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thought it was a